I'm Jody Batchelder. I'm the Vice Chair of Old Bristol Historical Society. This is wonderful. Thank you for being here and adjusting to the fact that we're not at the church this week while they get ready for their fair. So we are really excited to welcome Craig Elliott here tonight. I'm going to let Pat Porter introduce him, but I want to just ask you to silence your cell phones. I want to let you know that they actually opened up the bathrooms for us tonight. On the backside. That's pretty great. And the last thing I will say, first of all, in 2 weeks we have another great speaker. This is going to be our own homegrown Scott Pendleton. He's going to be talking to us about his career as a merchant mariner. He's going to talk about history of fishing and everything all the way up into his time, working in the Middle East. And I think it's going to be really great. And that one's going to be at the church. We'll be back over there. That's August 10th. And I just want to thank our two sponsors, Hammond Lumber Company and Ov's Appraisal. We couldn't do it without our sponsors. We always need more, by the way. And I'm going to turn it over to Pat Porter, who's going to introduce Craig to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody here who does not know Craig Elliott? Oh, well. It certainly means that most of you don't really need an introduction. I have worked with Craig for about 7 years now with the Parks Department. Craig is one of the docents over at the Fishermen's Museum. And if you have not been to the Fishermen's Museum this year, you have not been to the Fishermen's Museum. Craig spent most of the winter working with Shelley Gallagher and a couple other people to completely rework the museum. And whenever they had a piece of equipment and they didn't know what it was, that's what Craig's job was. And Craig would tell them where it really should go. So he really knows his stuff. Craig has many years talked about the fishermen who've been missed over the years. Craig's family settled here in 1755, so they've had a long experience with the fishing industry. And for those of you that don't know, the second most dangerous occupation in the world is fishing. The first is logging, but the second is fishing. So Craig grew up in Round Pond, and I'm not going to say much more because Craig's got all of it to say about all the missing fishermen. So, Craig, it's your...
Oh. So is this thing turned on and working?
Yeah.
Good. Well, the first thing I get to say, I was lied to right off quick. I was told there'd only be 15 people here tonight. She's fired, she don't know it. So, she's told you who I am, now I'll tell you what I am. To let you know what I am, I'm not a lobsterman. I was going to be a lobsterman, but they made too damn much money and I couldn't have had that high. I'm not a historian, I'm not a writer. I'm just a man who said yes when he wishes he'd said no. So anyway, working in the museum for 14 years, and knowing that all around different towns that have memorials to fishermen, Boothby, Lubeck, Port Clyde, there's a lot of places have a memorial to the fishermen that have been lost at sea. So I thought to myself, the least we could do would be at least get a list of names to put up. So I made up a list of names and put them up, and that was a mistake. Wouldn't it, Pat? Let Pat go. So what I did, probably some of you know Shirley Gear wrote a book called 70 Years at Pemaquid. He put it together, I should say. Was covered from 1930 to 1994. So I went through it and picked out each of the fishermen that were mentioned in the in the book. So I came up with 21 names. Unfortunately, it's now 23. We just lost, back in July, a young fisherman died of a heart attack fishing lobstering out on Pemaquid Point. And the other one was one that took place in 1936 that somebody informed me about that I didn't know anything about. So anyway, I listed those that died from heart attacks, falling overboard, boats sinking. Now we'll go through that list in a few minutes. And I hope it doesn't upset any members that are here. As far as being a dangerous job, from 1700 through the 1900s, going fishing was almost a death sentence. Let me read you a bunch of 1766, 19 vessels lost headed for the Grand Banks. 140 men lost. 1871, 20 schooners, another 140 men. 1873 was 9 schooners, 128 men. 1872, 77, 13 ships down, 144 men lost. 1878, 24 schooners went down with 240 men. 1862, a boat headed for the Georges Bank was lost with 120 men on it. So it is a dangerous job, to say the least. From 1830 to 1900, Gloucester, Massachusetts lost 3,800 fishermen and 670 vessels between 1830 and 1900. That's a lot of men, a lot of boats. So, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. I don't know if anybody knows who they are or not. I never knew it until I started this foolishness. They estimate around 60 million people employed as fishermen or fish farmers. Now, the ILO, the International Labor Organization, estimates 24,000 of those die every year. The Pew Charitable Trust estimates 100,000. So, from falling overboard, vessel collisions, poor weather, quite a difference between the two outfits. But suffice to say, that's a lot of fishermen, a lot of boats. Oh, where am I? Reading about all these ships going down, one thing sticks out, at least in my mind, and that is the lack of power. When you're on a sailing vessel with no motor, engine, or whatever, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. And when she gets to gander up, you want to leg out. One of the most productive fishing places is Georges Bank, which is about 150, 200 miles off Gloucester. The currents and the tides are so wild out there that they literally can pull us, a schooner or whatever, right onto the rocks. That's how powerful it is. And of course, being so productive, everybody and his uncle wanted to go out there to catch fish. The only problem was they not bunch up bumper to bumper, but there'd be a huge group of them, which is all right till a storm come up. And what would happen a lot of times, with that wind and the way the tide was, it would break those anchors loose. And I got an eyewitness account that what happened, and this happened a lot. That boat that broke loose, no way to control it. It just took off and immediately smashed into another boat, and within minutes they went down. Nobody survived. a lot of times if there's a storm coming, what they do, they'd have a man sitting up by the anchor line with an axe. So if he see a boat breaking loose, he would cut that line immediately and hope they could get out of the way before it come down. But there was a lot of that went on. Oh, where am I? The Grand Banks is another one. A lot of ships headed for the Grand Bank. They never made it, and I don't know how long it would take. Oh, reading The Hungry Ocean with Greenlaw. It took them 5 days to go from Gloucester to the Grand Banks. I don't know how long you might be in a schooner to go from say Gloucester to the Grand Banks, but it would take you a long while. And you'd end up losing a lot of ships, a lot of people. Anyway, anybody got a question about that? Because that's about the end of. I was lucky enough to leave one of my papers home. But I got a little thing here about Gloucester, Massachusetts was at one time was the #1 seaport on the East Coast. Well, that was fine till I caught all the fish up. Now they're not. Twice Gloucester lost a third of their fleet in one night. In storms, I had that on the other one. But they've lost, a lot of fishermen, a lot of boats. Several times, 100+ Gloucester fishermen were lost in a single storm. That's how serious it was. It was 1881 was the first dragger powered by a steam engine, which was a total disaster because now instead of catching lobsters by hand, you could take and drag a net behind the boat. Instead of catching fish 1, 2, or 3 at a time, they're catching thousands at a time. That's, if you want to know where the fishing went, that's where it went. So, anybody want to ask a question before we get down through that list? I suppose I ought to tell you how many people died in Maine. I never did find out the total list. If you try to go and talk to somebody in Augusta, give it up. Don't even think.
You might mention that those crews out of Gloucester weren't just Gloucestermen. There are a lot of them from Maine that went on Gloucester ships.
I don't understand the word you said there.
The crews that went out of Gloucester were made up of people from Maine as well, not just Gloucester.
Oh, yeah, from all over. From 1993 till 2009, 45 fishermen in Maine lost their lives. I've got the list here. The only one mentioned is Roy Bickford, 2003. The rest of them are all, Matunicus Island. I know where that is. So the legislature decided to have a resolution. And you know how they go, whereas. A lot of whereases. We'll skip them. Resolved that we, the members of the 124th legislature, now assembled in the second regular session on behalf of the people we represent, take this opportunity to honor the memory of the Maine men who lost their lives in pursuit of their livelihood from the sea. So, they did something right for a change up in Augusta. We've lost, down east they've lost 3 fishermen this year already. The father and son, scalloping, coming back from scalloping in a storm, never showed up. They went looking for him and finally found the boat. It was 160 feet of water. So they got some professional divers all volunteered to go down, and they found the father still in the boat. The son they've never found. There's one other fisherman that went out and never come back, and his body just washed up on the shore after it's been about a month. Finally washed up on the shore the other day. And of course, here in Bristol, a young gentleman, everybody, most all the fishermen know him, and that's Dougie McLean. And Dougie was 67, 68, died of a heart attack off Pemaquid Point in the boat. So there's 4 this year alone, and hopefully there won't be any more for the end of the year. Now let me see what else I can tell lies about. I guess what I'm going to do is get down through that list. Any of you guys out there that can offer up any information, feel free to do it. What I did, I get on Facebook, and I would put on a name and ask for information. Well, there was a lady in Damascotta that I've known for a long while. I think she must have had a subscription to Lincoln County News or something, but every name I put on there, she found somewhere a newspaper article about it and sent it to me. So she saved me a lot of trouble. Karen Tibbetts Benner is her name. Now, one of these names on that list, folks, they tell me is wrong. I cannot believe I made a mistake. I thought I did once, but I was wrong. I think that's the... No. Orlando Curtis. Now, I don't know. I know he was from Bristol, but I don't have much information on him except that he was found dead in his fishing boat by Fred Gilbert. So they found his boat drifting with no one in there. Found the body laying on the bottom. So they assumed that was a heart attack. Left a widow and 2 children, daughter and a son. Oh, Arthur Curtis. This was 1934. Arthur Curtis, age 50, died Wednesday afternoon in New York Harbor in his room on board the steamship, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, of which he has been a captain for a number of years. I put that in there because he was a Bristol man, and I think at one time he was a fisherman, finally became a captain of a ship. That was 1934. This one, 1936. Now this is the one that I didn't have, but I was informed about it, and that's Wilton McCrae. He was headed for Round Pond on Christmas and never showed up, but his boat ended up on Louds Island and on fire. So we're kind of wondering if, that when it caught on fire, if he jumped overboard, maybe, the boat blew up or something. But anyway, that was Wilton McCrae. There's one Orlando. You're getting Orlando Fawcett on that list. That says Orlando Dodge. Is that the
Gerald.
Huh? Gerald. What? Yeah, Gerald Fawcett. He had a young fellow with him named Labrie, Labrie, 18 years old. and they were headed for Portland in the Pemaquid 2. And I think that was owned by Fred Gilbert. But they got caught in a storm, and nobody really knows what happened. They found Gerald's body on, oh, where that was it? I thought Old Orchard Beach. The boat washed ashore on Old Orchard Beach, and they found him not too far away from it. And the young fellow that was with him, it was a long while, they finally found him, on Camp Ellis in Saco. He washed up on Camp Ellis up there. He was 18 years old. And they don't know what happened. One of the sad things about this, if a boat goes down, nobody survives, you don't know what happened. You'd like to know, but there's no way of knowing. There's any amount of ways that could have happened. Run into something, somebody run into them, something blew up, maybe caught on fire, whatever. So it's hard to say what happened. That was Gerald Fawcett.
That's the one that says Dodge on the papers.
What?
But it's
It says Dodge.
Oh, it says Dodge.
but it's Fawcett.
Does that say Gerald Donkey Dodge? Yeah, Donkey was his nickname that they used. I don't know how I happened to get Dodge on there. As I say, I thought I made a mistake once, but I didn't. I was wrong. Okay. Charles Gamage, 76 New Harbor, found dead in his boat off Pemaquid Point early Wednesday morning. He'd been hauling his traps, was discovered by Elliott Gilbert, and that was another, well, they called it natural causes, but I'm guessing probably he had a heart attack. Left a widow and a daughter. Ellie Studley Gamage was his wife, and the daughter, Mrs. Charles Thompson of Matinicus, and a son. A brother, Parker Gamage. I guess we all know who Parker Gamage was. And that was in 1952. 1953, Bertrand Little was found. Well, they figured he drowned. He was headed from Manhegan to go fishing. And he was going to set out some trawls. Everybody knows what trawls are. If you don't, come into the museum and I'll show you what trawls are. But it's just a long line with hooks. And his was out, and they wonder if he got one of those hooks in the hand or something, yanked him overboard, which happens. The people that go after sudfish in the Grand Banks, they set out trawls that are 40 miles long, with probably anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 hooks on it. And when they're setting, those hooks are going, and it don't take long. One mistake, and you're overboard, and hope you get all your bills paid. So they never found him. They found his boat, as I say, with the trawls out, but they never found him. That was off somewhere between New Harbor and Manhegan. 1953 was Fred Duplessis, former sea fisheries warden, among other things, resident of New Harbor for about 25 years. His boat was found partially filled with water off Damascus Cove. But he wasn't anywhere around. But his boat, they did found his boat. Nobody aboard it. Well, I lied to you. Whose flooded hull contained the body of the lobsterman. Boat was half full of water and leaking from a small hole in the planking. So I guess we can probably figure from that he hit something, put a hole in the boat. I've read these before, believe it or not. Kenny Bickford, 1954. Oh, as near as I can figure, he going from his boat to his skiff to come in, and for whatever reason fell overboard and drowned within sight of his house. He was, now let's see, Francina Layla, and I believe Francina, I think was ended up married to Shirley Gear, right? Am I right on that? Yeah. But they had two boys, Donald, 4 years old, and Jeffrey, 2. He had 4 brothers, Richard in Connecticut, Wellington, Harold, and Roy, all of New Harbor. So that was kind of a family affair almost. And that was in 1954. Wallace J. Partridge, 1957, died suddenly on Monday while hauling lobster traps. His grandniece, Betty Lee Partridge, probably a lot of you people probably know who that is, noticed his boat drifting, and other fishermen went out and brought it ashore. The body was removed to Strong Funeral Home. There again, I'm guessing a heart attack. Guess I won't be a lobsterman. Too many heart attacks. A native of Bristol, survivors of 2 sisters, Vinnie Chadwick of Pemaquid, Doris Furman of Massachusetts. They never, yep, they did find his body. Went to Strong Funeral Home. Now this one, 1969, Lynn Hanna and Osmond Parody. Went out shrimping, and that was it. Lynn was found, and I don't think Osmond was. Parody was with him. They're about 2.5 miles off the point. And I guess they're figuring he was way overloaded. As I understand it, nobody went out. They were the only boat that left New Harbor. It was a wild and woolly day. Well, there can be 2. Believed the vessel was heavily loaded with shrimp at the stern and was swamped by the heavy seas. Hannah was wearing a life jacket, discovered by 2 men, Clayton Fellis, Robert Sykes. I don't know if they ever did find, well, they found an oil slick off Pumpkin Cove. In the museum over there, we've got a picture of that boat, and there's about that much freeboard. I think if you stepped on that, you'd have sunk it. And that was one trip that they made. That was in '69. As I say, they never did find Osmond, but they did find Lynn. Gorham Simmons, 1971, died unexpectedly in his fishing boat Saturday. Pearl Lane Jr., a neighbor, observed Simmons' boat, lobster boat, drifting in Pemaquid Harbor and brought the body ashore. Fisherman, lifelong resident of New Harbor. So I'm guessing that was probably another heart attack without any question. Now, this one, the Terry and Vicky. Michael McLean, Wellington, Bussy Bickford, and Clinton Gilbert were on it. Left Friday night for the Outer Falls Banks. I tried to find on the internet, Google, Outer Falls Banks, and all I kept getting was these different banks all around the country. One of you guys back there do you know where the Outer Falls Bank is? Because I have no idea. But apparently, I don't think they were too far away. They found, I think they found, what they say? Southwest Harbor, is that where it is? When leaving Friday, it was reported that the crew planned to fish the Outer Falls Banks and to take the fish of Southwest Harbor. So it must have been off Mount Desert somewhere. But they found, I think they found 4 or 5 different things that were definitely off that boat. And there's no idea, what happened. Search for boat turns up life raft. So they found a life raft. Kind of a sad situation, ain't it, this whole thing? You're going to hear about one worse, I'm afraid. Southwest Harbor. Terry and Vicky was located late Friday and hauled to the Portsmouth, New Hampshire Coast Guard Station for identification. Yeah, Wellington, Bickford of Bristol, and Clinton Gilbert of Southwest Harbor. Now, this one here, there's 3 brothers, the Crocker brothers. Darren and Kevin and Chris. Chris was on the High Chaparral. What happened is a good question. I'm not even gonna, I've heard 2 different stories. 2 different stories. I'm not gonna repeat either one because I'm not sure what happened. His mother said he drowned, and they got him, but he drowned. These 3 brothers were all in their 20s, and I might just as well. C takes 3 brothers, October's brothers, Darren Crocker and Kevin Crocker. They went down. It was a boat owned by Mel Thompson that they were on. Kevin, he drowned, but they got his body. And Darren, a guy's fishing out there, John Gilbert, Leroy Gilbert, were dragging for fish out there, and they dragged Darren up. The only thing he had on was his underwear. So they're kind of wondering if maybe they put that thing on automatic pilot, which a lot of them do, and just let it go. And something, who knows what happened. Because they never found the boat, and nobody survived it. So no way of telling what happened, except that all 3 of them were in their 20s, left families. Their mother was Dottie Morton, grew up in New Harbor, and her father was a fisherman, and they were fishermen right straight back through. So it was born in them, really. 91, we're getting to the bottom here. Oh, that's good. 1991, Benjamin Eugene Day, 21 of Harmony, lost at sea on or about 5:20 while fishing for scallops at the Southwest Harbor. Survived by his father and mother, Lyman and Dorothy Day of Bristol Mills, and two brothers. But there was, I think the boat went down. Called the Risky Business, and I guess it was. Was reported missing while scallop dragging in Frenchboro area. Crew of 3 are presumed lost. 2 weeks earlier, the scallop dragger Miss Ann disappeared on a trip from Eastport. And she carried a crew of 3 men, gone. June 1990, the dragger Jasper's Delight and the skipper Barry Hudson's of Bar Harbor, lost south of Pemaquid Point. March 1989, another dragger lost. So I don't know what the total is in Maine on ships that are lost in in the number of fishermen. 1990 is when Kevin and Darren went down off Mount Desert somewhere. As I say, that was sad. She lost her 3 boys of them, 6 years I think it was, all in their 20s with families. And Kevin, as she says, this is his mother, hated fishing, absolutely hated it. When he fishes, they had to get a special prescription for a seasick pill so he could stand it. And he finally gave it up and went to work as a carpenter. Well, in the winter, time got slow, so his brother Darren asked him if he would go on the last trip. It's the last trip either one of them was going to take. Maybe he thought maybe they could make enough money on that one trip to get through the winter. Well, they didn't. But that was a sad, sad story there. A couple of the guys that found Hall Darren up in a net had talked to them not too long before they disappeared. Where am I at? I don't know where she got all her information, but she gave me a lot on the Crockers. Darren and Kevin and Chris. 2003, I think, is the bottom of the list, and that's Roy Bickford. Now, I'm assuming that according to his obituary, Kenny Bickford, Wellington, and Roy were 3 brothers. Is that right? Does anybody know for sure? Yeah. They were? Yep. Well, he come up missing, but they don't, the boat was running but unoccupied near Pemaquid. So, and they're not sure. Lobster gear was found attached to his boat, and then again, he could have been yanked overboard. A young fellow over in Hapswell about a week ago not paying attention to what was going. He had it, and I did this once. The only time I ever went as a stern man for one day to help somebody out, caught in that rope up. Get his foot in the middle of it. And when that trap went out, because it grabbed him, yanked him overboard. But he was able to free himself. But I was out with Jimmy Poland and did the same thing. So I'm saying, all of a sudden, Jimmy gave me a push. You know, I didn't quite understand what that was all about till I looked down and see where my foot had been. When you're on the water like that, you can't be too awful careful. Now, supposedly, Roy had what they call a sleeping disease, I believe. Narcissism, whatever they call it. Because he hadn't fished for 2 years. And all of a sudden, he decided to go lobstering again. So you'd almost think he either fell asleep and went overboard or something similar to that. As far as I know, they never found his body, did they? I don't think. Anyway, folks, the last ones I say on the list, Dougie McLean. He's been stern man for years for Billy McLean, and they were fishing off of Pemaquid Point, lobstering it. He died got dead of a heart attack. He'd been sick for 3 or 4 days, but let's not go to the doctor. To hell with that foolishness, right? His sister, Jeanette, who was married to Stanley, she tried to get him to go, but he would not go, and that was that. And it hurt her more than anybody, because she took a guilt trip because she tried to get him. If they don't want to go, they're not going to go, and that's that. There's no, you can do all the screaming and hollering you want to. Yep. Oh, sit still. Oh, that's my brother.
Yeah.
You never would know it looking at us side by side. I think we both got got mother's nose. What'd you say? Oh,
Yeah.
I got something I want to read to you out of the book. 70 years at Pemaquid. Yeah. Oh, 1936. Pemaquid boy saves man's life. Roy Bickford, 8-year-old son of Mrs. Gladys Bickford of Pemaquid Beach, saved Harry McLean, lobster fisherman, from drowning when he fell overboard from his boat as he threw over the anchor. The boy caught McLean by the hair and his clothing as he rose to the surface and held him until he regained consciousness enough so he could get back into the boat. 1957, twice a hero. Roy Bickford, 33-year-old Pemaquid Beach fisherman, saved a fellow fisherman from drowning on the last bad foggy day that they'd had. See, Roy's boat, the Sharon Marie, was tied up at the Fisherman's Co-op when he heard the cry, "Come quick, come quick." Roy untied his boat and started off in the dense fog, finally located Lee Elliott, one of our brothers, in the water clinging to the side of a dory. As he was rowing, he hit a lobster crate with his oar, which for whatever reason knocked him overboard. So Roy pulled him from the water, so he saved 2 of them. And I've gone by, I've missed somebody. Harry. Oh, Harry McLean. Damn it. Now that was 89. Won't go away. Harry fell off his boat. There again, going from his boat into his skiff. And somebody see it happen. And the woman see it happen. She run down, told him to hang on. Help was coming. They called Billy. And Billy come flying down and went out to get him. And they shipped him to Maine Medical, but he never regained consciousness. He was face down in the water times Billy got to him.
Remember Buddy Pollard?
Who?
Remember Buddy Pollard when he went underneath the dock?
For all intents and purposes, he was dead, but he wasn't. Anyway, folks, I get the story here somewhere on Harry, but that's what happened. Anyway, folks, that's all the sadness I've got tonight, except the way I feel right now. Anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer?
Over here. Over here. I see that there's a Caleb McLean, a Douglas McLean, and is it Harry McLean? What's the relationship between the three of them?
Which three?
Caleb was killed in 1973.
Yeah, he went down Cale.
Caleb McLean, was he related to the other two?
I really couldn't say. Does anybody know whether they were related? Because there was Howard McLean, David McLean. Yeah, a lot of McLeans. So a good chance they were related somewhere along the line. That somebody jumped the fence. Know what that meant, didn't you, you devils? Alrighty, folks.
All the boats now have radios.
Yeah,
When did that come in? Like the ones in the early 30s, they probably didn't have radios, did they?
well, I remember the first one in Round Pond was Charlie Poland off the island. Charlie put in the phone radio. Of course, everybody made fun of him. What do you want that for? Well, it went along for everybody had a radio on the boat. They've got a lot of safety features now, but they still lose people.
Yeah, did insurance take off any time that you know of for both boats and for personnel?
Did they what?
Insurance for both the boats and the people on the boats, insurance take off at any time, any year?
That's a good question. I know they have the boats insured, whether they have themselves in kind of a life insurance, I don't really know. But most of them they get, borrow from the bank. The bank insists on them carrying some kind of a, liability insurance or something. Most of them claim they can't afford the insurance, but you really can't go without it.
Greg, you got a question way in the back. Speak up.
It's not actually even a question, it's something I just wanted to share. I knew fishing is hard work and lobstering, but I was talking to a lobsterman over in Round Pond recently, and he says they're typically pulling like 800 or 1,200 traps. And there's so many heart attacks that you see here. It just helps me appreciate how hard the work is, and it's not a surprise that you end up having heart attacks. And that's fewer traps now than it used to be, but when the state has been restricting how many traps you can have to help preserve the lobster.
These traps that these guys are building today, they're not building these little 3-footers. They're building 5-footers. And they're yay wide and yay deep. And they are heavy. They have hydraulics. But when that trap comes up to hits the boat, you gotta pick that thing up and you gotta haul it up on the rail. But they're from Pemaquid Point to Canadian border, they're allowed to fish 800 traps. From here to Small Point in Brunswick, they fish 600. And from that point to New Hampshire, they fish 800. And you guys that are lots of fishermen out there that know, you haul 300 to 400 traps a day, you're pretty well beat when you get in. That's a long day. And that don't help matters either on something happening to a fisherman. Just sitting around drinking coffee, telling lies to each other, you know, that, yeah. That works too, you know.
Craig, you got a question right here.
It's not a question, it's just another comment. You know some of these people are related, and I just wanted to point out another relationship, because I grew up living next to Marie Bickford
Yeah.
my whole life,
Yeah.
and Fred Duplessis was her father,
Yeah.
so she lost her father, and then she lost her husband. Yeah.
You got another question back there. See that one?
Okay, me. Are there any copies known to be in existence yet of Shirley Geer's book?
Okay.
Are there any, is Geer's book still in print? Can people still get Shirley Geer's book?
Oh, 70 years at Pemaquid? There you go.
The Bristol area library has a copy.
I expect you to buy them somewhere. Did somebody say they?
Bristol, the library has a copy.
I think this was printed
Bristol
in.
Historical Society, we have two. You can come and read it there too.
I think Licking County News printed these. I thought, because that's where he worked. And
Another question right in front of you there, Craig.
Our collection manager, I want to say that our collection manager for Old Bristol Historical Society says we have 3 copies. We don't loan them out, but if you want to come and visit at the History Center, you can read them while you're there.
what he took columns. You know, people have different columns. Every town has people that write Round Pond column, Bristol column, whatever. And he went through them by each year and picked out certain things to put in the book. I mean, he didn't write it. He just organized it, let's say. Although it is interesting to read, you know, some of that stuff.
Do we have any more questions? We got Kay. Kay's got a question for you.
Yeah, for fishermen out on the Grand Banks, was there ever any known danger of larger ships crossing the Atlantic?
Into the Grand Banks?
Well, out. Did the fishermen, seems to me that I heard talk of that.
Oh, there's big ones off there. And I often wonder, some of these boats that get down, one of those big oil tankers, one of the big ones, like the Terry and Vicky, they would hit her in the middle of the night and never know they touched anything. And down they'd go, and that would be the end of that. But I don't think there's too much danger of, you know, the big ships like that, you know, where they're fishing. All righty.
Questions or comments?
Thank you, everybody. I made it.
Good job, buddy.